Welcome to the All About Ability podcast. Yes, I nailed it. We've had a wee bit of a break the past few months, but we're back and we're ready to go again. And I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks in podcast. We're going to be back every Tuesday, 5 o'clock. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And we're going to have some good content coming your way, so stay tuned. Reilly's Gaff is joining All About Abilities Gaff. That was my first line for the day. I had it all planned out the whole day. I was like, we're not just him this way. But I've been watching your podcast, mate, and it's a pleasure to have you on as your first guest appearance, Evan Reilly.
Mate, I'm excited. In work all day, I've been like, because usually, mate, like we do a podcast every week, right? So all my week is consumed with, and my brain is like, right, how's the guest getting there? What am I going to talk about? This, and then after it's done, I'm like, right, how's the editing? Like, Joe, how long is it going to be? Blah blah blah. But this week, I can just relax and be like, I'll just be the guest for one. So exactly. I'm excited, mate. I'm excited.
Well, I've got the pressure of picking your brain, which is going to be impossible.
Oh no, I don't think nobody's ever done it, mate.
No, because that's the thing that's really interesting about your podcast, mate. Is you can't tell what's going to happen next.
We don't even know, mate. That's the beauty of it.
And I would say that people probably see mine as more of a sort of serious, sort of typical Scottish style of podcast, because most of them are like mental health sort of based about real life stuff, and yours is more channeling that sort of American comedy thing.
Aye, it's like, because we obviously I didn't plan on making a podcast really, right? Like at all. Mm-hmm. My plan was to just keep doing the videos that I was doing, and then I got offered the podcast in a weird way, like G4, where we film it, messaged me saying, do you want to start a podcast in our studio? Which is kind of like weird, but I was just like, no, I said no for ages. And then we started it, and when we started it, I was like, what kind of stuff can we do? Could we get guests in, whatever? But then it's no, like, obviously you do focus on mental health a lot on this podcast, and a lot of them do, but I would say we are trying to help people's mental health, but by no addressing it ever, to like take their brain totally away from it, like never bring it up almost, so it's a distraction for them.
Yeah, I totally get you, and I think that's what's been missing in like the UK podcast scene. It's all very serious, and there's a lot of like, you know, if everyone is talking about it, you almost like, you want to break from it, you want to listen to some random stuff.
Aye.
That's what people really like about podcasts.
I know.
I don't think there was many Scottish podcasters doing that before you. I think you're probably one of the first ones to do that.
I mean, it was, maybe we were kind of like the first to, I don't know, it obviously helped because of my TikToks and that. Like, there's probably podcasts that have tried to be like that, and it's not really taken off because it's hard, mate. Like, you're a piss in the ocean, really, aren't you? Like, when you start a podcast, even here, like, it's not like you can download Scottish Spotify and it's all just Scottish pod. It's like you're in with every podcast, so it's like how do I separate that for what else is out there at the moment? And I did think about that before I started. It was like, you've got I looked at it and I was like, we've got like Open Goal, Talk Scottish Football, which is recording G4 as well. Like, you've got a lot of football ones, because it is, when you've got a topic, I think it's really, it's not easy, but it's very, like, if you're subject to your podcast about Scottish football, right? Every week you've got something new to talk about, so you're never really having to come up with that much. You're just commenting on what's going on. So I get jealous of that sometimes, to be honest, because every week we're like, what are we talking about this week, man?
Well, that's it, mate. Like, see, it's like when you look at the main draw for Scottish podcasts, it is football, mate.
Aye.
That is the thing everybody talks about. But this is an interesting way to start it, because I'm watching your stuff and I'm thinking that, you know, you're very unpredictable, mate. I'm like watching your TikToks on the way here and busting out laughing, like, what is this guy? What is going on in this guy's head, mate? I don't understand what's happening with this guy.
Know you, mate.
But, you know, sometimes people do TikToks and podcasts and that, and it comes across quite forced. Like, they're not really, they're just not enjoying it. You know, you seem to really enjoy it and thrive in it.
Aye, nah, I love it.
And part of me was like, it seems like you found a good place to sort of channel that like weirdness, if you like.
Oh mate, honestly, 100%. It was like no fate, but like I was doing the videos for a while, and then whatever. I'm sure we're going to talk about them, but then I started with the podcast, and it was like people had only known me before for these wee clips, but now when people maybe bump into me, and that I think they feel like they actually know me more as well. And it is like my brain, mate, is just like I can barely sleep in that, mate. My brain is just constant. I can't switch my brain off ever. So the videos were a good outlet for me to just get all this bullshit out of my head for a wee while.
What was it like before then? You must have been pure like did you just get yourself in a mad situation?
No,
like,
I don't know, mate. Like, but before I started any videos at all.
Like what was it? Was it like when you're starting TikToks, right? What is going through your head? What made you think I can just start doing these videos?
Right.
What was even the point in doing that?
Well, do you know? It's funny. I actually remember exactly the reason why I started doing them. Right, because when I worked in the railway, a good few years ago now, man. Like 5-6 years ago, no, maybe 6 years ago, something like that. I worked in the railway, right, and I would obviously you're just lifting stuff, moving stuff, whatever. And you go on your break, and what do? You go on your phone, you go, right, look at people's stories, pinging through them, and I'd be like, it's like a picture of Nando's, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so bored. Like, why does somebody not post something that's just like, just entertaining? And I don't know why I feel like people have to entertain other people, but I'm just like, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see somebody doing something weird or funny or mental or whatever. So I was like, I'm going to start doing wee things. And if 100 people see it and go, that guy is clearly taking smack or something, then I'm all right with that. As long as one person got a wee laugh out it at all. But then it just started building for there. I would like take videos I used to drive a big massive forklift about, and I would like drive up the end of the yard and like record myself doing wee videos. Because it started off as just Instagram stories. That's how it started. Like I would post a wee Instagram story, and it was like it was almost like a wee improv thing. I'd like post one and I'd be like, right, what would happen next here? And I'd post another one and I'd be like, right, what would they say back to that? And then that sort of built that up for me to be able to make full videos, because people would obviously stories expire. So when they expired, people would message me like, oh fuck, like wow, like I want to see that again. So I'd be like, oh, I'll make it all into a video, and then I just started making videos for there. But I think the thing is, like you're saying, like how did you know you could even make these things? It was like I didn't really, but I don't know. Like I think the thing with me is it's like I wouldn't say I'm no funny, but I'm more like observant to how a person might walk in and say something or act, or so I pick up on the wee things and I'll like remember a way they said a word or a phrase they used or the way they acted about something, and that's normally what I go, right, I can kind of copy that. And like I've always been good at like impressions of wee accents and things like that, so being able to like take that and then put them into a situation, that's what the way I managed to do it.
That is exactly what I took for it. Like, see the way you just described that? That's exactly what I was thinking. Because see when you're watching them, as much as I'm like random and stuff, I'll like see the ones about gaffs and stuff like that. They actually, I'm watching them going, I've been in gaffs like that.
Oh mate,
I've been in gaffs like that.
Too many of them, mate.
I feel like this is a good point to maybe to bring up a few of the TikToks now. Right. We'll watch a couple on my phone here.
Watch.
Because like honestly, I've got myself into some weird situations with gaffs and that, and I'm watching this and I'm like, I hope I was never that guy.
Aye.
I might have been, you know what I mean? I'm like, I think I might have been.
You don't want to be that guy, man.
But the first one I found was,
mate, I owe him fucking all sorts of dough, mate. Don't get him up here. He's not gonna say it, mate. Mate, you fucking bamming me up, mate. The cunt's mental. He said he's sending a fucking pack of wild dogs to my gaff, mate. It's heavy stressing me out, bro. Honestly, mate, I've not been feeling good no that cause yet. Did you just say gun fingers there? Aye, mate, I think so, aye, I did, aye, fuck. That's cause I'm stressed, mate, protection, know what I mean? Mate, he said he's sending a pack of wild dogs, mate.
See stuff like that? I've actually, I swear to God, I've met that guy before.
Aye, everybody, that's why I think people are drawn to him, because everybody's met the guys in a house like that, like, and I think that's why they took off and done so well, because it's like, I always thought that there was, not to sound so cheesy in that, but like there's like when you're sitting in a gaff at 5:30 in the morning and everybody's kind of ran out of patter and things to say and everybody's just kind of looking at each other and the lights coming through the window and you're like, what am I doing? Like, there's beauty in the wee moments and there's certain things, the way somebody might act, say maybe they've took too much and they start freaking out and they start hinting somebody's in the cupboard, but it's just, like, all the wee things, like, I've been in that situation so many times and I've been that guy a few times, so I know what these situations are like, and I always think of things that, so like, see in that video we just watched, right? When I'm making a video, normally it'll come from one wee tiny thing and I'll build it like backwards. So I won't like build like a situation and then put the patter in it. I'll like, there'll be a thing that I want to use in a video and then I'll build the video around that. So like for that one, it was like a pack of wild dogs. Like, I just thought that was so funny, and I was like obviously like there's a pack of wild dogs pure dangerous, and I was like, imagine somebody like said they were actual, and I was like, how could somebody even send a pack of dogs to somebody? Like, how would they even know how to get there though? Like, it's just I build it for one wee bit and then out the way almost.
There's a lot of like talent in that though, mate. Like, people can't do stuff like that. The mannerisms are spot on. Like, the way you act it out is that, you know, it matches it so well.
Aye.
Whereas I think people, they just miss the mark on that. They don't quite know how to relate to it so much.
No, I get you, and like that is the thing with my videos as well. Like, I don't make them so much now because of the podcast. I'm just so busy with that. But when I was making them, it was like I had to get every mannerism right, and I knew I don't know how I know, right? I actually don't have a clue how I can do any of this, to be honest. I've never done acting classes, never done anything like that, right? But it was like I knew the exact timing I went to say something, and like and also like the mannerisms and that is like that separate. I think for me that separates a video for being like, oh, it's quite funny, to being like what, like I felt like I was there. You know what I mean? I feel like that's an actual. And when I'm making the videos and I'm acting out in a sketch, I'm like trying to. I'm not just like, oh, like I'll try and say the thing that I thought of. I'm like, I'm going to try and be this person in this moment. So I did like, I'll record the one bit for like 40 times, mate, just to get the kind of exact timing of what I'm saying in that, like bang on.
That's why it went so well though, because you know, it's just so spot on, mate. I'm watching I think I knows what he's talking about. But there was one I was watching on the way here, mate, and I need to bring it up because I was actually laughing at it for like 10 minutes. I want to see if I get the right one here. Hold on a second. See this one?
Scott's trying to bam us up, know what I mean? He's telling us, the Darnley Lama cunt gives fucking advice about life and that. I'm like, I lived in Darnley for fucking 5 years, bro. I never seen one llama the full time I was there. Mate, you sure he wasn't saying the Darnley Lama? Nah, bro, defo Darnley. You're shopping. Davey, what's happening, big man? Look. I'm not feeling great, mate. I don't think I'll make it in the day. What's wrong with I've ended up catching dyslexia, mate. No, I couldn't come in, mate. No reason for an hour there. I'm at my fucking auntie's funeral now. You can hear what? I know, Dancing in the Moonlight. That was her favourite song. That's Matty Janet's song, mate. They're just loading the coffin to the new.
Anybody
mate,
phoned a taxi?
He's heavy fucked it. Is wee Kieran still here? Obviously I'm still here, fuck.
Here I go.
That's literally me.
You're wee Kieran.
She said, Donna, what?
Kieran, what the fuck? It's even like that one was like working that out for. I just always thought that I don't know why a lot of my videos are based on somebody misunderstanding a word or like thinking something is something and it isn't because it sounds like it. And I always thought that was so funny, the Darnley Llama, because anytime I would drive through Darnley, I don't know how it came into my head, and I was like, I need to get that in a video. Like, and it's just these wee phrases that I'll just write it in my notes pure quickly, and then I'll be like, how can I get that in a video? How can I get that in a video? And then I'm just like, I think a situation out of that. But as well, with what's been good with TikTok from like my sketches and stuff is the voiceover feature. So you can capture like I can be talking, but then I can record a voiceover that sounds like somebody else is talking in the background, and it adds another bit of depth to like the sketch. It makes it feel like there's all sorts of people in the room, which when you're in a gaff and at that time and like there's a tune on, there's people, oh, there's a taxi outside, who phoned a taxi, where's my vodka? It's like all these things happening at once. So I always try and make it, I feel like the realer you make the situation, the more people, it's like, you like wrestling, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like the way, if they can, even though everybody knows it's no real, if they're that good at it, they can get lost in it for a bit, and you'll be like, oh, I fucking don't want this guy to win, when really it's just two guys rolling about in a ring. But the way that they're doing it, the psychology behind it all is making you feel something, so they make it seem that real, that you're actually invested in it for that wee bit. And that's the same psychology I try and take into the sketches.
It's such a great way to put it, mate. It's all about making people feel it.
Aye.
Because it's the same in every sort of genre like that, you know, but I think people really struggle with it, because there's so many of them, to actually find a wee niche that people weren't really into. Because there's so many parts of that where you go, you could have left it after the lava bit, and it would have been totally funny.
I know.
But you continued it on to the Grand Studio, and then, because it explains, every time I was in a gaff like that, there was always about 50 mad things going on, and you were like, what am I doing here, man?
And it's you, like, it's almost like the video is you observing this gaff, and you're the person sitting going, it's 6 a.m, I've got stuff to do on Monday, it's now Sunday, when should I go home? I've left it far too late. It's like capturing that feeling, and it's and people obviously relate to it, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I find it, like, it's weird though, because the thing that people mostly come up to me and say is like the Mark Antonio, the mad Italian sort of American voice thing. That's the thing that people normally say the most, but I find it easiest to make the gaff ones, because you can kind of put editing into that situation. And as well, like, I don't really do this as much now, but when I first started making them and they were getting bigger, I always made sure, this is a wee trick of the trade, people, right? I always made sure there was something in it that was like quotable. Like people would be like, something that somebody could come up to you and be like, see, like Step Brothers, probably like one of the most quotable movies ever. There's just, don't touch my drums, like, do you touch my drum set? Like, I smoked pot with Johnny Hopkins, like all this stuff. It's like all quotable things, and I was like, that's what makes people like it keeps it relevant as well. If there's like a quote for it, like people come up to me. There's a video I done, and it's like a guy going into a doctor's, and he's like, oh, the test results and that, and he's like, oh, we've got the test results back, and like the results have come in, and like, you've actually lost it, mucker. As if like that's an actual disease or something. You've actually lost it, mucker. And so many people come up to me and say that, but it's just so quotable, you know what I mean? But there is pure method behind making them, which is it's weird, because it might just seem to people that you're just making this and you're like, oh, these just making a fun, but there's so many wee things that I'm thinking about. But that comes back to my brain being like,
have you got like ADHD or something?
Fucking probably,
because I mean, I know that's a personal question, but I was like, I get a few ADHD moves here.
No, mate, I don't know. But it's weird, because Jamie, that I do the podcast with, shout out Jamie Kelly, he has ADHD. Basically, so he has ADHD. Paul Black has ADHD. Paul Dock has ADHD. Basically, everybody that makes videos has got ADHD. So I don't feel like I'm ADHD. I feel like I almost feel like it's I don't know, I'm always analysing every single thing. But it works for the videos, but obviously when you're trying to sleep at night and you're thinking about like, oh, why do lassies get to pish privately but boys need to date and with each other? You're thinking about things like that. You can't switch your brain off, you know what I mean? Why is that, mate? I don't know. That's
the beauty of having a disabled toilet, mate.
Oh, fuck, I know. You never get... You should just rock in there one day, take a peek, man. It's no good, mate.
Half the time I need to wait because somebody's either taking a line or shagging them.
Aye.
Fucking...
To be fair, I was at a wedding at the weekend and I did slip into that, so I apologise, mate.
You're part of the problem, mate.
Well, I've got ADHD, is that count?
There we go.
Can you get away with it? Can you go, here, I've got ADHD, can I use that toilet?
Well, you know, they never, like when I'm going to a club or something, they never look at my bags or anything anymore.
I was going to say that to you, by the way.
Like,
you're like a wee safe. You must be like a wee safety net for people.
I feel like I don't want to say too much.
A drug meal.
No, like I've never done anything like that ever.
Nah, you would never do that.
Never do that. One wink. But no, listen. You know, as you were saying that, there was something that kind of occurred to me. Like, I think in Scotland particularly, there's like sort of people don't like putting themselves out there because see the stuff you're doing. See if you're not doing that and it's not accurate to what like the real life scenario would be, people would take the piss out of you for that. Like, do you know what I mean?
I know.
So to get it to do it and for people to actually like it and not be slagging you off for it is kind of like really amazing thing you've managed to do, because a lot of people are like pure like, I don't want to do this because if I'm like slightly off on this, people are going to give me pelters for it.
Especially here, man. It's like that.
Glasgow.
It's like if it's no, I'm not saying mines are really good, right? But if it's no really good, people will shit on it.
Exactly.
Like it needs to be good. But I feel like so after I was in the railway, I moved to Vietnam, right, for like 2 years teaching English. Not 2 years, one year. Try to big myself up here. 1 year.
I seen that on your like Instagram actually, and I thought it was the most random thing ever. But you went in there with your buds.
Erin. I went with Erin, and we went to teach English just to get away from here. Like my job in the railway was a contract, so that was ending. And I went over. I remember seeing these videos of a guy in China, and he was going into like the fake markets and like asking about a price in America, like an American in English, and then they would say a price, and then he would start talking Chinese, and they'd be like, "Fuck!" And he'd actually get a real price out of them and haggle. And I'd be like, "How does this guy just live in China? Like, what is this guy doing here?" And then it turned out that he taught English there. So I started looking into that, and then we went over for a year, which was class. But I think that moving there helped me realise that in Scotland we're in such a bubble, right? And it's like you want to do something, you want to put yourself out there, you want to make videos, you want to start your own business, you want to start making, I don't know, anything. It's like we are kind of hesitant to do things and put ourselves out there. But then when I moved there, I was like, the world's so big, like you like it, and it's one way of thinking. When I was in Vietnam, they're shy, but they're very like performative and like very like out there. And I realised like that's just a Scottish mindset that we have, where because there's such a big slagging culture here, it's like you don't want to be the one in the end of it. So you're as long as you're not getting slagged and you're just kind of getting by, you're like, oh fuck it. But when I came back for there, know that I came back like, I'm gonna fucking make videos, man. Here we go. Like it wasn't like that, but it definitely, especially teaching classes of 50 Vietnamese kids at once, that helps with like, it kind of gave me the mindset of like, if I can go out there and do that, then what do I need to actually ever be worried about, really? Like nothing's ever going to like overwhelm me. Because like when I went there, it was like a trial class I had to do, and I'd never taught a class in my life before, right? I got a teaching certificate before I went. We went there, and then I'm teaching in this class, and it's like I had to teach this class of like 40 kids, right? And it was like 4-year-olds, right? So I'm trying to play these games. I'm sweating, mate. It's 36 degrees. Do you know what I mean? Humid. And then I end it, and like the people for the company are sitting up the back, like taking notes. Now I'm like, am I doing well? Like, what the fuck is going on? And after that, I sat down, and she was like to me, okay, you're not the best teacher, but you're not the worst teacher. We'll hire you. And I was like, what the fuck? All right, man. But that was so nerve-wracking, and like she was so bluntly honest with me, because see, if you went for a job interview here, even if you were shit, they'd be like, you've done really well. She was just like, you're not the worst teacher I've ever seen. And I was like, fair dues. But that just, once I'd done that one class, I was like, oh, I never need to be worried about ever doing anything else ever again. Like that totally knocked that thing out of my brain.
It's a really interesting perspective. Like it hadn't occurred to me like how much you get stuck in a bubble here.
Oh,
yeah.
It's bad.
And it's like, I think maybe from what you're saying, it's like they're more comfortable with themselves.
Aye, they are. It's almost like they might be, a lot of them are quite shy, especially obviously with me, because maybe they don't speak good English. They don't want to embarrass themselves. It's like you going to France and get into a restaurant and like none of them speak English, and you're like try to speak French. It can feel embarrassing, so I understand why they're shy. But when somebody's like doing something on the street, maybe a performance, or like there's no slagging culture there. Nobody's like, oh my God, look at the state of that guy. Like there's none of that. It's just like, oh, he's just everybody. Because as well, I stayed in Ho Chi Minh, right? So I think there's 13 million people in Ho Chi Minh. That's one city, right? Which is like sort of like London, maybe. It felt like London, like just people, crowds and crowds of people. But I did feel that because there's so many people, it's almost like nobody's bothered about anybody else. They're just getting on with what they're doing. So that kind of helped me with that mindset when I came back. I don't really care about anything here, like the slagging culture and oh my God, look at him, like what he's doing. Like I was just like, I don't really care. It definitely helped with that.
No, it's great to hear. I think that's exactly what more of us need to do in terms of changing, because it starts from like a really young age. I remember in school, you were pure desperate not to be the person that was slagged off, so you just became one of the people that was slagging people off.
You're just like, they're slagging him, he's a dick, you know what I mean?
You're in the back there just think, I quite like that guy.
I know you're like, but I know it is that way, and it's like, it is that in school, and you just become a sheep. Everybody's got the same school bag, they've got the same jacket, the same trainers and different colours, and it's like, you just don't want to be that person that sticks out. But like, what, like, are you gonna live your whole life with that mindset? Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to grow out of that and realise that like people's opinions and judgments and whatever they're gonna say to you, that's all it is. It's really nothing more than that. It doesn't. If I told you in French right now that all these things slagging you and that, you would have no idea what I said, then none of it would register with you. But if I told you in English, it would all hurt you and that. So it's like, all these are just words, and it's all about how we react to those words rather than just taking everything that everybody's saying to you literally and like seriously. And I think social media is bad for that, because now in society, it's like on Twitter, say like we had Spexy on our podcast, right, that done the Celtic tune and that, and obviously it's so easy to just, you're behind a screen and it's so easy to just, like hundreds of people are slagging this guy, I'm going to quote tweet it and come up with a funny slagging just to get likes. But the person who's on the receiving end of that is reading that going, these people all hate me, but they don't really. They're just trying to use you to like get some likes or be funnier or and it's like clout, and it's again what you're saying. It's like, well, if he's getting slagged, at least I'm not getting slagged, so let's pile it on them. So it's a toxic sort of mindset.
You know, it's strange because I know he didn't mean it probably in this sense, but that's probably one of the best mental health things I've heard anyone say on the podcast, because it's really relevant to like real life. I think people need to realise, like, one of the messages I try and put out here is the idea of like just being yourself is okay. Do you know what I mean? I think the more young people know that, the more it's
100%
going to help with stuff like that.
Aye.
But we'll come back to some more of that later on, right? I want to get into your podcast a wee bit here, right? Because Reilly's Gaff. So we talked about TikTok and why you started TikTok and how that all came about. But TikTok is a really kind of short format. And some people go from TikTok to podcast and you're like, this guy is not it. You know?
I
so
get you.
Was, in terms of making those like longer expanding content, was that something that in your head it was like, am I going to be able to do this?
Aye. A bit, man. It was like, that's why I was hesitant at first when they asked me, because I was like, that's no my thing. It's not like I done drama and I was like, oh, I'm going to like make these sketches and hopefully I get a show, and like I just started making these wee videos, and then so I thought, that's my thing. I know what to do in that. I know how to make one. I know what people like. I know what's funny to people like. And when I got asked to do the podcast, I was like, is that going to translate? Am I going to be able to like take that and make it entertaining for an hour and a half? It's a total different thing. But like, I've never been really the funniest person, or I'm reasonably intelligent. I'm not like the smartest or the loudest, but I always found that I've always been good at talking to people and making them quite comfortable when I'm speaking to them. I find that when I'm talking to people, I like listening to them. I like hearing what people are saying. And I think there's a lot of people in life that I always think there's two kinds of people in life. There's one's waiting for their turn to talk and the other one's actually listening. You know what I mean? So I thought that like, that's why I could do it, because I think I've always been all right talking to people, and then when I started doing it and I was getting these guests on and stuff, I was like, all right, this is actually all right, man.
But I think what you said there was spot on. The best podcast are the podcasts of people that can actually listen to what somebody's saying. The attention span now is everybody wants to tell their story, man.
Aye.
But if you're going to have a conversation, it can't really happen that way if you don't actually listen to what somebody's saying. And you do that really well. I think that's
cheers, man.
The biggest sort of skill you can have. I mean, I've watched podcasts where like, people will have like so it's like somebody that's good. I think there was one particular one I watched, and it was like somebody had like stolen a diamond from a bag,
right.
And it was like this. And I was like, and he gave this really detailed description of it. And I was like, wow, what a story you just told there. And I'm thinking about the million questions I'd want to ask from that story. And then the guy just like, whoever it was like, it just totally changed the
Aye,
subject.
just like next thing, man.
I was like, what?
It is difficult though, man, and like you maybe know as well. Feel like doing these, it's like when I went, I always think the way I do the episodes when there's a guest on is like, how can I get this person to be the best version of themselves? Like, what can I ask that they're going to be interested in talking about? Because I always think like, at first when I was doing them, we turned up, we had Paul Black was our first guest, which was like a good first guest. So
Okay.
he turned up and me and Jamie had fucking A4 sheets of paper, questions, Jamie's question, my question, and I was doing that. And then when I was doing it, I felt like because I was sitting looking at this thing, right, that say he brought something up like that, say he told that story, in my head I'm worrying so much about, right, what's my next question, that you forget to, you're forgetting to almost comment on what they're saying. Like, and I've learned that as I've went on, that it's trial and error with things, man. It's and as well, I always try, because I went for being on TikTok and that, where like you're the main character, know what I mean? So then you're coming on and like you're getting these guests on and you're like, oh wait, this is like their thing. So you're trying to be funny and help them, but you're also not trying to take over the episode. It's like it's a wee art form, man.
Yeah, because you need to find the right balance of when to talk and when to shut up.
Aye, definitely.
And that only really comes from the experience of it, but the most important thing is actually try to like, I want to talk to you the same way that I would talk to you if we didn't have microphones on.
No, definitely. That is the goal, man, innit? It's like so many times we've went to record and like, obviously we're in here, the lights and the cameras and that, but like, if you can take your head out of the fact that you're recording a thing that's going to be put on YouTube and put here, like the conversation that comes out of that is so much better than like, because it can sometimes, I mean, like even new sometimes, man, you had a long day at work and you're up and you're tired and you're getting up and you come to the studio and you sit down and the lights are there and you can kind of get caught in your own head sometimes. It might not look like it on screen. It might look like, oh, if they're flying through that, it's brilliant because we can edit it and that, but sometimes you get caught in your head like, oh, like how am I going to appear on the camera now? How am I going to appear when I'm saying stuff? And maybe you're halfway through saying something and you're thinking about something else. It can get difficult, but we're trying our best, man. We're trying our best.
Well, exactly. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I was kind of like that with you as well because I know that your podcast is kind of taken off.
Aye.
And this is going to lead to the next couple of questions for you because I've got, in terms of your podcast, I think it's so interesting because you really kind of took a leap of going into an area that hasn't really been touched in terms of the UK podcast scene. But in terms of when you're totally lost my train of thought there.
No, it's all right. We'll just talk about that. So, do you know what's funny, right? You done that there. See, last night we were recording a podcast and Jamie was like, this is what he said to me. This is Jamie Kelly for you, ladies and gentlemen. He's like, to me. We started, everything's gone sweet, mate. Beautiful, flowing in that. And he's like, right, well, I'll be honest, I've got nothing to say. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, my brain just went blank. And I was like, right. And then I was like, mate, why the fuck did you do that? And he was like, I'm sorry, mate. I thought it'd be funny. You know what I mean? I just thought, and I was like, you totally wiped my brain there. So I think I just done that.
That's the beauty of podcast. I could just go anywhere.
But yeah, as you're saying, it is like sort of a way where in the UK, it's like, that's where our inspiration comes from, America, because that's what me, Joseph, and Jamie, that's what we all watched before we done a podcast. And I remember watching them thinking, like, no one's trying to do this here. We're like, fair dues, like, you might get some people that are doing it, but they're doing it, like, in their house, like, on a phone, like, and it's really, even if you're the funniest person ever, see when you're no recording with, like, high quality production, it's hard to get noticed. It's hard to watch, even if you're so funny. So I always had it in my head, right, if I ever do one, it needs to look like 1080 on YouTube. It's got to like because as I say, it's like no matter what you're saying, if it's no high production, it is hard to watch because there's a million other ones out there that are high production that a lot of them probably get away with no being as funny just because it's so easy to watch. So in my head I was like, if we can blend that together, and also with the guest, it was like, well, we're getting guests on, but sometimes you can get caught. There's a few things we've been caught where we've got somebody on and it's been like, it's made sense to get them on. Maybe a lot of people know them or whatever. it's made sense to get them on, but then when you're talking and that, you're like, oh, like I didn't really want you on. I just think everybody else wanted you on. So then that's why we've cut down on the guests a bit, and because we want to have fun doing it. And the most fun we have is, obviously we love the guests coming up. The guests are class, like, and it's a total different thing. But we love just sitting talking absolute shit, like nonsense, man. And I think that is what's been missing in the UK. It's like there's all the podcasts are about something. It's got which helps massively. There's weeks where like because you've no got a topic. Like a lot of the podcasts I listen to are like about something, about football, about this, and it's like every week they've got something else to comment on, as I was saying. But we wanted to take it in that direction because I was like, no one's doing this here the way it is in America. And I wouldn't say so much like Joe Rogan in that. It's more like
Tiger Belly.
Tiger Belly, like just the uniqueness of this. Even Tiger Belly, the way they shoot it, where all the cameras are on the screen at the same time. Like we've been got to trial that a few times, and I've received some declines from my fellow podcast buddies, Jamie and Joseph. But well, I want to trial that. Like, especially we've got our Patreon, which is like we put out sort of the outtakes, like see the bits where they can't see, like I bet you might cut out this. Like we put that up on Patreon just because people, the moments are actually funny to see when like you're not on sort of thing. So I would like to trial that and that where you can see everybody's reaction at once. And we just wanted to take inspiration for them, man, because I just feel like nobody was really bothering to try that here, and it's no seeped its way into the culture. Even podcasting in general is no really seeped its way into the culture here as it has in America.
We are quite far behind in that way, which is why you're ahead, if that makes sense.
I get you.
Because, you know, they all work together as well, and you're talking about how you've not really got a specific subject every week, so you need to come up with new stuff. That was one of the things I was going to ask. Like, see, when you started doing it, right, you kind of had a free hit at it in terms of, you know, you've got the TikTok audience and you're just going to go in there and sort of be like, I'm just going to talk about things and see how it goes. But see now that it's kind of taken off a bit, man. You got, in terms of our group of podcasts, you're doing really well, mate, in terms of people tuning in and stuff like that. So, you know, is there a point where you start going, does it become a little bit less natural in the sense of like, you're going in and going, right, we need to come up with something here.
We need to keep moving.
Especially when you've got, you know, you've had the York brothers on a few times, I think, and a couple of repeat guests. So, like, do you then start going, how do we make that different from the first one? Does more prep go into it? And has it surprised you at all, the amount of work that actually goes into doing a podcast?
Oh, mate, there's so much work. It's exhausting, mate. I'd like to get up right now, honestly. Honestly, mate, it's hard, mate. Like, I don't think I realised anywhere near the amount of work that would need to go into a podcast before I started doing it. But I'm glad I've done it now. But it's like, man, it's like this way my brain is as well. It's like you're just in work. All you're thinking about is the podcast. And like, as you're saying as well, it's like you're going up now with a pressure to like, oh, we've actually got an audience now. So it's no like people are just like, oh, like fair dues, like well done, boys. It's like, this wasn't funny, it's the last one, know what I mean? So there is a pressure. But I will say, right, there's actually probably 10 times less prep now than there was at the start. But I think it's because it's like you're doing something so often and you're just getting so used to it. And I find that like, especially, maybe no like this podcast, maybe no like a podcast about football, but the way yours is because there's no topic, the less prep, the more natural it almost is, because you're going up and you don't even, like I said, Jamie Kelly, no got a clue what to say, mate. I'm like, thanks, mate. But that happens. But there is less prep, but there is more pressure. And it is, as you're saying with the repeat guests, it's like the repeat guests are probably people that, like Sean and Ben are our actual pals. So we don't really feel like there's guests coming up when they come. It's more like, and we want to get that habit of like, I would say here as well, you get shows that it's just guest, and it's like, don't really want them back on because they've just told us everything about themselves, which is difficult. But we want to like get our pals up, like Sean and Ben, Paul Dot, people like that. We want to get them up and then just do it as if, so like no even talk about them really, just talk about things. And that's the way we want to start taking it. The people that we feel like they're the best on it when we're there, like we want to invite them back. Maybe no, because like one of my favourite episodes was you and McVicker, right? Just a great guy, very easy to talk to. great stories. He's obviously blown up, so there's no shortage of things to talk about. But we're no close pals with him, so I wouldn't just call him back a month later and be like, "Want to come back and date again?" Because our relationship is more like, "What have you been up to?" Whereas I can get Sean and Ben on and just talk about shoot from the hip, baby. Yeah,
exactly. Like that, it comes across like a very sort of natural, the kind of conversation you would have with a podcast. And it's interesting because as you were saying it, I thought that maybe you would imagine that more prep would go into it in your head if you were going to look at it from like just purely. But you're saying as well, you actually improve. You get more natural at it because you're getting used to it. You're getting the reps in. You're getting more comfortable with it.
That is reps. I think it's like people talk about like stand up. It's like the more you're doing that, the more you're just going on stage and it's just no even it's just a breeze. It's just like, oh, I've just been doing it so often. But if you're off stage for like a year and you go try and do it, it's like, ugh. And that's happened a few times. Like sometimes we've had to take maybe 2 weeks off, maybe somebody's on holiday, something's happened, whatever. And when you come back to date again, you're a bit like, but it is reps. And I think that's why we've been able to hold back in the prep so much, because I do feel like the less prep, it can backfire sometimes, but you do get a totally natural conversation out of it. And I think that's what any people like that have said to me about our podcast, that's what they like about it. They like that they're listening to it and they're like, oh, I just feel like I'm sitting with my pals watching it. Like I feel like I'm sitting with yous rather than a sort of interview. So I think that's the kind of style we're going to keep going for.
Well, part of the reason I think that works as well is because it feels as if the actual typical, way of interviewing somebody with questions and saying this is what I'm going to ask them and they're going to give me a typical answers to everything. It seems like that's kind of dying a wee bit.
Aye.
And people are less and less interested in that because we're in this sort of age where people want to know what you're really like, who you really are.
Definitely.
Do you is there any part of you as you're going on, like, do you feel any sort of imposter syndrome of like?
What for the podcast?
Like in terms of trying, is there do you ever catch yourself kind of not being yourself? Or
sometimes, sometimes I don't know, man. It is hard because you want to go out and be natural, but at the same time, like the conversation me and you might have outside of this room when this finishes might not be that entertaining to put in a podcast. So there is an element of like you need to turn it on a bit, but keep it natural. And there is times you're like, I'm trying to be a charade in myself almost, which is weird.
Well, you mentioned the wrestling comparison earlier, and I'm going to use that again because I feel like everyone says the best wrestling characters are like just sort of heightened versions of themselves. So it's a case of like you're almost a heightened version of yourself on the podcast.
But sorry to cut you off, mate. But see, when you're saying like, I honestly, the way I am in the podcast, I would honestly say I'm basically just like that all the time. And I think that's why, especially with Jamie, like the relationship me and Jamie have is like the way that I don't think I could do that podcast with anybody else because he's just as fried as me, maybe even a million times worse, I would say. So
from what I've seen, I wouldn't disagree.
No, but so I feel like when I'm on there, I can talk about things and I would mention something to Jamie and he knows when to take it, he knows when to keep going with it or just leave it as a throwaway comment because we've been with each other so much now. But it's like, I'm really just like that. Like I just really like talking about, I hate, like, that's why like Love Island, right? I watch Love Island and honestly, mate, I see these people going up to people and it's like, so like, what type of guy do you normally go for? And I'm like, how can people have these boring conversations? Like, I would be like, I used to do this test, mate, a very reliable test when it came to females. When I would, obviously I've got my girlfriend now, been going out for 5 years, shout out Erin. I think you know Erin, don't you?
I do know Erin.
Yeah, she was like, ask him if he knows me or know me. So I shout out Erin.
She's really good pals with Jodie, isn't
she? Yeah. So they used to work together, man. So what was I even talking about there?
Nursery teacher. You were saying you had a really good advice for dealing with women.
Oh, right. Aye, so mate, so I used to do this thing, mate, where first like conversation I would have with a lassie, I would say, when's the last time you done a shite?
Right.
Okay. And here's the thing behind this, right? See if they go, why the fuck you asking me that? No, like, I'd be like, right, we're not going to go on. But if they go, fucking Dane Wan the new and like go with it and have a laugh at it, I'm like, oh, they're on my level here. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I used to separate the.
So is that what Erin said then?
Erin's constantly shouting, mate. She's probably shitting as we're doing this podcast, mate.
She's gonna actually cut this out, man.
I know. No, keep it in, keep it.
See, that's interesting because my first question was, do you like wheelies? You know what I mean? So you always need to start with. I always feel like I need to start with the wheelchair right away because I'm like, if you've got a problem with the wheelchair, then we're going to have.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
Same with me. If you get a problem with the shites, it's off.
Exactly. But it's quite interesting because I think most guys would want to kind of be this sort of, you're kind of, you wait a while to show them your real self, but you're going right for it.
I'm like, because I think with me, mate, like, my strength is in, I just think everybody's biggest strength is fucking who you are. That's what you've got to everybody else. There's always going to be somebody stronger than you, better body than you, better looking. Like, just there's always going to be, but they don't have what's in you that makes you you. And that's a lot of yous, mate. And I don't mind you using a lot of yous from time to time. But that's why I'm always just like, I think I accept people thinking I'm weird because that's me. That's what's in my brain. This is what I am. And as you're saying, it is people just need to be themselves. And that's why I'm always just like, I'll never mask who I am or even tone it down a wee bit. Really, like people who meet me. Well, most people that know me that will meet me, but like, he's fried. Like he's no right. But I'm alright with it.
Mate, I fucking love that, man. Right? Because, it's the kind of thing that you do where you think you could be in danger of becoming sort of a character.
Mm-hmm.
You've managed to stay true to yourself, and you're totally right because it's like actually accepting yourself is such a big part of, feeling good about yourself. And,
it's hard as well, man.
For the people that love you and for the people that hate you, you can be like, well, I don't mind that because I'm just being me anyway.
Aye, and like,
so you're hating me for me, you're loving me for me. I can be happy with that.
Exactly, man. And it's even if you're kidding on to be somebody else, or like to a certain extent, say you're masking a bit of your personality or whatever, like it's going to come out in the long run, man. Get it all out there.
Exactly.
See when people are shouting, man. That's what I'm saying.
I love it, man. I was pure. I was pure impressed with that answer there. I'm like, this guy, man. Like,
thank you.
The devil's coming back on, bro. We get so much more to talk about, but talking about our podcast, right?
Yeah.
There's so many like funny, weird moments, right? What are some of your favorite sort of moments from the podcast?
Oh man. There's that Mark Black was on and Jamie was talking about funerals. There was always a joke with me and my pals. If a pure ridiculous song came on in a house, it would, like one of my pals, Joe, who I was meant to be doing the podcast with first. He would always shout out, "Turn that off, that's my granddad's tune," right? As if fucking, oh, like that was his tune, I'm going to get heavy emotional, but it would always be like bits and pieces or something, like something pure out there. So we were talking about that in the podcast, and Jamie was saying something about like, oh, I went to a funeral and the song was Live Forever, which I thought was really nice. But I don't know why I was like, but they're dead, it's a funeral. They're like, they won't live. And he's like, no, but they're going to live on in spirit and that. And I was like, right, I never really thought about that. And I'm trying to think of what else. Even in the Ewan McVicker one, some of his stories. Actually, do you know what? Probably my favourite whole podcast. It's just probably one of the least viewed podcasts we've done. A guy called Connor Reilly, right, who is like a filmmaker, and even just the stories he had about, he was on a yacht with Billy Connolly in Hong Kong filming, and like he became pals with him, and he seen him months later, and they came up to him and he was like, Connor, like, how you doing? He was like, fuck, he actually remembers me, gave him a hug and all that. Billy Connolly, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna watch that.
Oh mate, everybody watch Connor Reilly's. But because he's no like, maybe he's not got a big social media presence or whatever, then it's that's what I've learned as well, man. You're putting podcasts out and you can't really go off you can't really go off of how many views they get, because we had like Connor's done all this amazing stuff, and then we had Lee Sutherland on for TikTok. You know Lee Sutherland? Right. We had Big Lee on, right? Which, oh my God, man. That, do you know what, mate? I don't think I've ever smiled so much in my whole life. Constant. I think my face was sore after that podcast. Lee, so I'll tell you a story about Lee. So we were trying to get Lee on for months, man. Obviously, absolute legend. This guy has got me through some dark times, Lee Sutherland. Just on TikTok, I'm just like, this guy's a fucking legend, man. So I've been trying to get him on for months, and I was like, whatever. So he ended up, he was like, I'll come on. I was like, fucking yes, man. So I gave him the address to the studio, and Lee's driving up, and I'm like, on the phone, I'm like, Lee, like, I'll stand outside, I'll wave you in, sort of thing. Right, no bother, right. And then I see him driving up, right, and he's driving, and I'm like, waving at him, Lee. And he just does that, and just drives right by me, right? And I'm like, where the fuck's he gone, man? I phoned him, I was like, Lee, where you gone, mate? Like, come back. Like, and he was like, all right, was that you? And I was like, who the fuck did you think it was, mate? A guy just waving. It's like he's never seen me in his life. But Lee was funny, man. Lee was, oh man, just the moment he got out of that car, I just seen the suit trousers, the smart shoes, the black shirt, and I just seen his footstep at the car, and honestly, I was just smiling. See, just getting to meet these people. And as well, man, it's, see what you're talking about, like imposter syndrome. I think some of when you get some guests on, like the bigger guests and that, you can get a bit maybe like nervous, or like, because you only know them from afar, you only know them for these things, and then they're here, they've got a big following, people like you, but you realise, man, it's like when they get there, like everybody's just a human being, man. It's like everybody is just a person who, they might have 100,000 followers, they might have 1 million, but the all day shites, mate, which I'm a fan of. But when they come in, so it's been a task for me to get myself in gear of like being like, oh, like I can hold my own here with these people. I can chat to them and be natural and feel like, because in my head, right, what I do is like, just so I don't feel like I'm mad anxious way, I always tell myself like, no, like you like have earned this, like you've actually earned this spot to like get these people in and talk to them for a bit. And it's just, I think that's my favourite part of the podcast, just getting to meet all these people. And the fact that we can go up, can I mention smoking joints?
Yeah.
Right, can I mention it?
Yeah.
Right, good, right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a wee hit, I'll explain to you later, right? But we can go up, smoke a joint, come back in and talk shite for an hour and a half, leave, forget everything we spoke about, and then put it up on YouTube, and people actually want to watch it. People actually are like waiting for it to come out. That's so mental to me, mate. But that's like my favourite part. In terms of just moments, it's hard to pick them out, man, because it is just the whole thing in general, man. I'm just so lucky. Like, it's not my full-time job, but like I'm hoping it will be eventually, and it's just feel mad that I get to actually do that and meet all these people.
No, I totally relate to you, man. It's a great feeling. See, even just meeting you and talking to you, like, just someday I was like, this guy's funny, man.
It must be so weird for you, mate. I always think that when people meet me, it must be so weird, because it's like, what I noticed, I know, man, is there's been a difference for like when I done the TikToks to now, because I think because people only knew me for the TikToks, but now they've seen me in a podcast, they feel like they actual pure know me.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that like when I done the TikToks, if somebody noticed me, they would come up to me and be like, you that guy, and it's almost like you're a cartoon character that they're seeing walking by them. They're like, is that, like, the look in their face is like as if, is that a real person? But it's the same look I would have if maybe Lemmy walked by me or something. I'd be like, is that actual Lemmy? But it's like that same look. But now with the podcast, it's like people are like, because they feel like they know you already, they just go like that. All right, mate. And I'm like, I think they forget that I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's only a one-sided thing. So I'm like, immediately I'm panicking. I'm like, do I know this person? And I'm trying to like look at their face, but I'm trying to react to this in real time. So I'm like, all right, mate. And they're like, love the podcast. That I'm like, all right, fuck, I've not forgot somebody.
When that happens, it's so weird when that happens. I get pure imposter syndrome when that happens to me. I'm like, I was in a pizza shop the other day, and he walked past me, looked in the window, seen me, and came in and was like, I was watching a podcast last night, man. I'm like, cheers, man.
It's a pure weird feeling, isn't it?
But it's like you realise like, oh, people are actually watching this. You know, it's like
it is
because you're just you know one of the things you said that was really great is like not focusing on the actual viewership and just focus on enjoying yourself. Mate. If you're enjoying yourself, people will feel that. People will feel that we're enjoying this conversation. You know what I mean? That's what it all comes to.
No, definitely.
But talking about your podcast, the name Reilly's Gaff, I think is a great name, right? And we had a big conversation about Gaffs earlier, and it got me thinking, where did that name come from? And also, what is your see in terms of you've made yourself TikToks and that, but in terms of like your actual real life. And a gaff, what's your craziest gaff story, mate? And why is it called Reilly's Gaff? Because I've got some crazy gaff stories, mate. I'll give you an idea because I feel like people from Reilly's Gaff that are watching this will be surprised by this story. Basically, one day when I was like 17 or something like that, right? I was out and about, and see the thing with being in a wheelchair. For those that haven't realised this yet and are just tuning in for the first time, I have cerebral palsy and I'm in a wheelchair. My legs are fucked. Everything else is fine. Everything works.
Wait.
but I kind of go a run. That's just about it. I used to call myself the crippled Spider-Man because I just crawl about the place and that. But no, so we're out and about and with my pals and they're like, oh, we're going to go back to this gaff. And I'm like, and so I had to take my pal home. And then they're like, right, we're going to go to this gaff. So I ended up in this taxi with people that I've not really met before. And I'm like, where are we going here? And ended up getting to this gaff and there's like 2 flights of stairs in it. And this lass is like to me.
Worst nightmare.
Oh, mate. See, my knees are fucked. My knees are so bad now because the amount of things I've done to crawl places is just it's sickening, man. We need to get better wheelchair access permanently in different places, mate, because it's That is on a more serious note in the middle of the story. Like, this is why I think I've got ADHD because I could just go sidetrack into all sorts of shit. But like, see, not being able to go to half of these things when you were a wee guy, that's so important in terms of having pals and that.
True, man.
When you kind of go to a nightclub and you kind of get in, or you go to a gaff and there's no access, it's like pure. You feel pure like it's your fault and there's nothing you can do about it. It's quite a shite feeling.
And it pure alienates you, doesn't it? It's like. I never really thought.
But that's kind of the whole point of why I did. Like, you know, you talked about why you do your podcast. Why I do this podcast is like, I'm in a wheelchair and you'll know, right? And people might look at me and go,
"Don't brag, man."
Right? But people might look at me and go, you know, this guy is, you know, there's a stigma around disability and the fact that, you know, they might look at me as different because of that. But the whole idea of this is to show that we are just as weird as each other.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Like there's not really. You might look at me and think we're different, but we're actually not at all.
Exactly. And it takes away some of that stigma and going that, oh, that, you know, people listen to this and go, oh, he's right, maybe we should have better access for stuff.
No, you're 100% right, mate. And I think, like, genuinely, no blowing smoke up your ass, like, it's inspiring because, like, I feel like if I was in a wheelchair, I would just be sitting feeling sorry for myself, eating fucking Cheetos, mate, to be honest. But the fact that, I mean, you go to the gym more than me, mate, and I'm not in a wheelchair, so that makes me feel, but that makes me go, if he's doing it, why the fuck am I not doing it? You know what I mean? And it's the amount of stuff you do as well. Like I seen you in a wrestling ring. You done swimming as well, didn't you? So like, mate, like it's mad and it is inspiring to see somebody like you've actually just been like, I've got this thing, but I'm actually not going to let it hold me back one bit. And that's very commendable, mate.
I really appreciate that, mate. Try to make me emotional.
I'm sorry, man. I'll make you blush. I mean, you get any compliments from me, mate? This could just be a compliment back and forth, yeah.
That's the only part of this podcast is getting clipped.
Me just really, I love you, mate. Honestly, you're so brilliant.
No, it's. I mean, when I was in my younger age, it was had a kind of phase where I was very sort of angry at the world type of thing.
No,
but
I can understand that.
I think you get older and you realise like, I would like to give. There's other big boys that are in wheelchairs that are raging to the world for being in a wheelchair, and I'm just trying to show them that, you know, you can do stuff.
Aye, no, like, that's brilliant.
There was 2 things I wanted to do more than anything, which was have a wrestling match and play football, and both of those things seemed impossible. And then you realise the older you get, it doesn't really matter what cards you're given, you can really do anything. Like, I'm going to have a wrestling match and I'm going to play football for Celtic. And these things are going to happen. It's like, I'm trying to show them that, you know, it doesn't need to hold you back. And we're in a day and age where, like, these kind of conversations and the way that people see disability can change if we are putting the message out there. And that's what I'm trying to do. Just want to make it easier for the next wee guy in a wheelchair.
I know, and it's interesting, like, as well, just as you're saying that, it's almost like you've got the thought of, like, the only boundaries that are really in a way are in our own head. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that, like, because, I mean, you're like, who would have thought that you would be in a wrestling ring? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's even you must have had a thought in the back of your head, like, I know it's not realistic, but the fact that you've been like, I'm not even going to let it even affect me one bit. And it's kind of like, I'm not comparing myself to your feats, mate, right? But
well, you've got better feet than me for sure.
I'll give myself that one. I
couldn't help it. It was too obvious. Better feet than me. Of course you get better feet than me, bro.
Wrong choice, lovers. No, but even with like the podcast and that, it's like my goal is to be able to, not necessarily just podcasting, because we are starting to do more like kind of vlogs, going places, and just incorporating a lot into like just this YouTube channel. And my goal is to like not have a job, mate. Like, and I don't mean that in a kind of lazy way. I mean, I don't want my income to be determined on how much time I'm giving somebody else to do something I don't want to do. So I want to be able to wake up sort of when I want and go to the gym and come back and relax and then do my work. And I think I don't have a problem with people that don't want to do that. But I think a lot of us are trapped in thinking that we can't get to that. And in my head, I'm like, I grew up normally, mate. Like, I didn't grow up and everybody was like parading me about like King Bob and Recess, going, this guy's so funny. Like, it wasn't like that, but I found I had a wee talent for something. And then I was like, how far can I take this? And then I was like, because see with the videos, mate, it was like, I was making the videos. So I started really making the videos during lockdown, right? That is when I was like, let's capture the people, right? Everybody's stuck, everybody's on their phones, let's get them now, right? So I started making them, and every day, mate, I would go a walk, smoke a joint, and go, let's think a video. And I would come up with a full video on like an hour walk, right? Then I would come back there, and that's what was keeping me. I loved lockdown, mate. See if Boris came on that telly and was like, we're going into another lockdown, I'd be like, thank you, Boris, mate. I'm like, I could easily live in that, mate. I don't think I'm very, I get like socially exhausted. Like, see if I'm with like a big crowd of people for a long time, I'm like, I just want to be in a room myself. I don't know why I'm like that.
You know, I think I'm very similar in that regard.
I think so, aye.
Because the first part of lockdown, mate, I just spent in my home gym. Like, I made like a home gym and got a wee hand bike and just spent time doing that and going wee wheels and that. I'm trying to normalise saying wheels instead of walks. But like, that was when, and then you would go to a park or something, mate, and like you would walk through the cross or something and nobody would be there, and you were like, this is quite nice,
loved it, mate. Look, honestly, so the world ending, I'm happy. no, because then I would be gone. But no, mate, like I loved it. Like, it's almost like I had, because I think because of the way my brain is, like, I'm constantly like, it's helped me make videos, but at the same time, that allowed me to just like have no distractions of like, what's happening there? Like, because there was nothing happening, I was like, right. And then I think that's how everything just came out into videos. And I remember when I started it, at the start of lockdown, I had like 1,500 followers. And by the time lockdown started to kind of get lifted, I had like 10,000. So like nearly like 10 times the amount of followers. And I remember my cousin Ewan messaging me like, mate, if you keep, this is like when I first put like 2 or 3, he was like, if you keep going, you're going to have like 10k followers by the end of lockdown. I actually did, which I was like, how's that possible? But when I was doing the videos, I was loving it, and like people were, and it's very weird for me, mate, because I got bigger during lockdown, I had no experience of like people coming up to me and that. So obviously when lockdown get lifted, people were just like dying to get out, right? So I remember no far from here at the locale, right? Next to like Berkeley Street and that. I remember I was going up there and somebody was shouting pure, Mark Antonio, like pure shouting at me, and my pals were like, what the fuck, man? I was like, I don't know. And then, so there was no like gradual build up for me. It went from like nothing to like, what the fuck? It was crazy, mate. But then I realised, like, I was doing the videos and they were getting likes, and I'd post one, it did really well, and I'd post one, it did alright. And then the buzz of that just sort of died out for me, mate, to be honest. Like, because I realised, like, now the thing you're saying about, like, do you ever find yourself just trying to, like, turn it on and be a version of yourself? Like, it got to a point I knew exactly, like, a formula on how a video. The way I would do it is I would mention a place in Scotland or, like, Glasgow that was, like, not obvious, but, like, quite, say, like, somewhere like Cardonald, right? And if I was doing the Italian-American, sort of the dad, like the Mark Antonio videos and that, I would make sure that I said a place like that, because hearing that accent say somewhere so obscure in, like, Glasgow is just going to, like, make people go, oh, like, it's just weird to hear that. So I knew that would, like, resonate with people. And again, with, like, the quotable thing, I would always make sure there was something in it that was like, so I almost had a formula in my head for it. And then it got to a point when I was doing them, I was like, I'm just doing these because I know how to do them. Like, during lockdown, I would no make one for, like, a week, and I'd be like, fuck, I better come up with a video, as if it was, like, my job. But it's because people started knowing me through that. I felt like it was, like, a duty. I had to, like, I'm the video guy, man. I need to just make another video. Yeah. But it reached a point, I found myself just putting that formula together and being like, and I would actually be like, oh, thank fuck, I don't need to make one for a while now. And I was like, that's not the right mindset to have when you're doing this.
You want to keep that same enjoyment that you had at the start of it?
Aye, 100%, mate. So when I was making them, I was like, I don't know. And then I took a wee break for it, and then the podcast started, which was good for me, but I don't have, like, it sounds weird, but, like, I would get such a buzz at first when they would go big. I would be like, what the fuck, fucking all these followers now, and what the fuck's going on? Yeah. And then because I'd experienced that, it was like, no, I just make things that I'm like, what makes me laugh? But and then if other people laugh, good, but whatever, man.
Fantastic, mate. I think there's, you know how you were talking about, like, enjoying that sort of quiet time? Have you managed to keep that at all part of your routine, like giving yourself, like, half an hour to an hour of just being alone? Or
no,
is that...
it's hard, mate. Like, I struggle. I honestly struggle with it. Like, it's really difficult for me, mate. I find it hard to, like, switch off. And I think I always tell myself I'm going to get back into exercising a bit more, because I feel like that does.
When we'll do a workout together.
Aye, we should, mate.
We should do a vlog, right?
Aye, me and you work it, and you're like,
and you've got, like, a band around your head, mate. You're just sweating, and I'm like, just
hurry up.
No pain, no gain.
Aye, man. No, I'm up for that, mate.
That'd be heavy funny, mate.
I need to get back into it, man. But it's like, I find that difficult, man, and that's something I really need to work on, balancing things out, mate, because I'm so desperate for the podcast to do well. I'm so into it, and I'm so, like, and as you say, it's like that pressure, like, fuck, it's actually take off. Like, no, I need to actually be good at this. Like, I can't just, like, be like, aye, whatever. Like, I've got actual stuff to produce here. So that pressure, it sticks with you in work all week. Like, how's this episode going to go? Like, I'm naturally like that, so it's even worse. So I'm like, how's this going to go? How's the guest getting there? Right, what time's Jamie getting away from work? Is he taking Joe? Am I taking Joe? Right, how's the camera shots? Are we, like, it's just so much. And then as soon as that's done, it's like, how's editing going? Like, blah, blah, blah. How long? Because we'll, like, upload it so that we can watch it and then do, like, a final edit or whatever. But because you're doing them weekly, every single week, it's like, I'm finding it hard right now to balance my life out, mate, to do things that aren't anything to do with that I just enjoy, and I can just no think about that at all. It's hard, mate. It's hard.
Well, it's hard when you care about it and you want it to succeed. But at the end of the day, if you didn't think like that, it would never, you know what I mean?
Aye.
Part of you, because there's so many podcasts, mate, with a big giant pillar podcast, and the fact that you're putting the time and effort into it is what is making it succeed. So fair play to you, man.
No,
I'm sure you'll find a bit of balance eventually. I think I pure sidetracked well from the actual original question.
About the gaff?
A gaff story, mate. Like, all I was basically going to say was, I got to the top of this flat, and this lassie said to me, if you can get up to the top of these stairs, we're going to have a good night. And I was like, I'm fucking getting to the top of these stairs. So I swear to God, mate, I left my actual legs at the bottom of the stairs, right? And crawled up 2 flights of stairs, left my wheelchair on at the bottom of these stairs, mate, and crawled up 2 flights of stairs. As soon as I got there, mate, went in, somebody opened the door and it smacked me right on my forehead. And genuinely, like, a golf ball, like, just formed on it right away.
Oh my God, mate.
Like, in the first 30 seconds of being in this gaff, man.
Fucking hell, mate. The fact you even tried it.
Mate, my knees, everything. I was so lucky that I was really drunk at the time. But I get into the gaff in the chair, and people are like asking me to stand up now because they don't know who I am. And I'm like, I can't. And they just think I'm pure like Stephen or something.
Aye.
So guy tries to lift me up, and then he lets go of my hands. And he drops me, and I end up just falling through this table. I fell through this actual like full on. It was like a wrestling move or something like that. So
it wasn't a work table either.
No,
it was a real table.
A pure table. Like,
a pure table.
I was like, if I wasn't in a wheelchair before that, I was definitely in a wheelchair now. So you
what if you went through it and it cured you? You're like, fuck me, man.
I don't know. That's why you need to try DMT, mate. I'm convinced.
Jink?
DMT could be.
Think that would send the links and it would all come together.
Because cerebral palsy does start for the brain, so you never know. Maybe it will just switch something on and run about the place. Like,
imagine that.
That'd be class.
How surreal would that be, man?
I need to go and do that thing. You know where they go? What is the place they go to? And you go in
ayahuasca. They ayahuasca.
But that seems like it would be.
Mate, you'd be doing backflips. You took at me. Honestly, the stories. A guy in my work's went and done ayahuasca in Portugal. Said he was mental. Said he was talking to his ancestors and all that. Honestly.
Well, there was a picture. I took a picture the next day because everyone. I ended up in this cafe and I didn't know anyone there, right? And I took this picture.
Always a good start.
Right, honestly, and it was like me at the top of the stairs the next morning. Like I took a selfie and I'm at the top of the stairs and I took a selfie on Snapchat. I'm like that. Fuck knows how I'm getting down here, man. Because getting up in them is easy, but getting down them is pure.
So it's getting down.
Aye. Like, because I can't
Is that not like a bear? Like a bear's good at running uphill, but they can't run downhill.
Exactly.
You're killing the bear.
I went legs first, and the craziest part about this story is I had a fucking football game the next day. So it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, we're playing the league at like 11 o'clock that day. And when I turned up with like a big giant golf ball on my head, and people are like, "What happened to you, man? You look fucking rough."
Did you tell them it happened?
I was like, "No, I just got no, of course not, mate. Of course not, mate." I was like that. No, I just kind of fell and it's bruised it, and they were like, "No, you look fucking terrible. What happened to you,
mate?" There's nothing worse than like, say like you're out and you like, obviously you had that game, or like, see me turn up somewhere after and the first thing people goes, "You look terrible." You're like, it makes you feel a mil. You're like, I thought I was getting kind of away with it, and now I feel every bit of what you just said.
Well, we still won that day, so it just. I'm so good, mate.
Just a natural.
I'm so good at this. The fact that I could turn up like that and still win is just that tells you how good I am at this.
That's a bit of genius.
I'm basically like the Messi of Push Up.
Aye, kind of, mate.
I mean, not to brag, but pretty much. I mean, but in Scotland anyway, I think English people will be listening to this, but like, are you fuck? But so where did the name Reilly's Gaff come from then?
Right, so it took a while to think of a name, man, because it is a weird thing, man. It's like, what do I call this thing? What's going to sum this thing up? And there's a few like I'll always say to somebody like when I greet them like, "Oh, what's happening? Like, what's happening?" Like that's like a common thing. So I was like, "Oh, can I call it what's happening?" And then like it can also be about what's happening in that current time, and it's a bit, and I'll call it what's happening, like just like the way we would say it. And then I think is it Beans?
Aye.
So they had
been happening.
Aye. So I was like, it's too similar. Don't want to do that kind of thing. Like I don't want to sound. It's just too similar. It sounds like I've copied it. So then I want to do that, and then I was just going through all these names, mate. About 20 odd names. I'm trying to think of other names that we're going to call it, but I thought, right, like this is my thing. I've started this. I want my name on it. I don't know. I was just like, I want my name on it somewhere. Like, and it kind of made it a bit easier if you just put your name in it, then attach something to it, rather than calling it like whatever, All About Ability or something. Get on. No. No, we were doing it. Mate, I see, to be fair, I couldn't come up with a name, so that's why I just stuck my name on it. Yeah. But I put my name on it, and then I was like, right, what resonates with me? And I was thinking a lot of my videos are about being in a gaff. So I was like, gaff, and then I was like, it's almost like people are coming into my house, but I was like, I'll keep, because my whole thing has always been like, so even when I was making videos, I wanted to go heavy in the paint of like what we actually experienced. I didn't want to like start saying like what's instead of wits, because even if that would mean people in England could maybe find it funny, and I wanted to go times a million with what we actually talk like. Because I thought I would rather resonate deeply with people that are here than sort of all right, but it's kind of spread out, and some people in Ireland like it and stuff. I was like, no, I want to like represent exactly the experience that we have growing up here. So I wanted to keep it gaff, because that's like what we would call it. Like you're going, oh, I was in this gaff. Like, so I've always had that in mind. I always wanted to keep it like in a way that resonates with the people that are here and the language that we use. And I wanted to be like unapologetic with that, especially even on the podcast, the way we talk. We've had people being like, just a bunch of nerds sitting around and swearing and talking about drugs, and we're like, well, that's what we are. That's what we do. So I always wanted to keep it like that with the, and then the name, I was just like, Reilly's Gaff 5. Like, you've got to go with something. It's always going to come from nothing anyway. And as you were saying about like the stories, like I remember when we were in a gaff near where I live, and I've told this story before, man, but we were all, there was about, this was like height of the madness sort of thing, and we were there, and there was a boy, I'm going to just say his name because I don't really care, like Lino, right? That's his name. People for Cavaslager will have talked about it because everybody knows it was him that done this, right? So we're in this gaff, and it was like this girl's house, and to be honest, nobody was really showing. No matter whose house I'm in, I will never like pure trash it or even think about it. I'm quite an empathetic person. I would never, I'm too like, I would feel so guilty about that. I just don't have that in me to be like that. But people in general were just like, because there was, I think the more people that are in a gaff as well, the more rowdy it gets and the less people start caring about things like that, right? So everybody's just mental. This is like 8 a.m, right? It's got to, and there's still about 60 odd people in this house. And I just remember pure like, it was that way while we're still young, so everybody's trying to just one up each other. Like I remember somebody coming out at like the lassie's, it was either a Moz room or her room with this dildo, and like people were like waving it about, like walking about the house with it, and like people were like, somebody done that, like oh, let's see. I don't know how they go to like open their mouth up, but like let's see who can like open their mouth up wider or something. Or somebody done that, and somebody just done that with the dildo, just shoved it right down. I thought, sick, disgusting, mate. But that's not even the main event yet, right? We're in this house, madness going on. This boy Lino's like stoated outside, and he's been what is this hat? And he like bounced out, and I seen this with my eyes happening, right? He's went like out our back. It's quite a big house, big back garden, and that out the back, round the side, with a toaster, and just pulled these trousers down, mate, and just shat in our toaster. And I was like, oh my God. Now that way I'm like, what are you doing, mate? That's not even funny. Like, you've actually shat in somebody's toaster.
Oh,
and he's like, oh, for it. And then he's like pulling his trousers back up, and then
I hope he's been that, man.
Oh mate, so we go back in, and like somebody was like, I'm sure the lassie, right, came down and was like, who's put fucking chocolate in the toaster, right? And then she's like looked at it again and smelt it, obviously, and she's been like, who the fuck shat in my toaster? And then she was like immediately like, Lino, I fucking knew it was you. Like, and she just knew it was him immediately, and he was like, there's a video, I will send you the video and you can maybe put it up on it. There's a full video of it, like, no the shite, but it's like Lino lying on the bed, right? And he's like sitting in a bed, and she's like, get out my fucking house, I know you shat in my toaster. And he's like, wasn't it me? And he's like, I fucking no cunt else would do that, it was only you, get out my house. And I was like, oh my God, man. And then like a story, like for me anyway, this was another just, I remember there was a group of us who were just mad for it, mate, right? Like maybe 4 or 5 years. And we're going to like one of our pal's sister's houses, because like she had her own flat and it was in the town somewhere. And like she wasn't going to be there for a week, and she was like, you can come up and do whatever. So we went up, and then there was another group of boys who were quite more like acquaintances, like no actual pals, but they were the exact same as us. So it was that way, mate. When we like met in the gaff, it was like, well, pure. It's like everybody knew this was
It was on.
It was on. It was like this night was no going to be normal. Do you know what I mean? And I just remember like, God, obviously do what we do. I remember sitting on a couch exactly like this, mate. And I was just feel like that. And I worked in House of Fraser at the time, and I remember sitting like that. And I just remember saying like to my pal, like, oh, you're not going to serve that customer there? And I just remember him being like, what? And I'd be like, fuck knows, mate. I thought it was in my fucking work there, man. And he was like, all right. And then I remember sitting, I said something else as if I was in my work. And I was like, fuck, man. And then hours went by, right? And it was one of them I'd gaffed it, like, everybody brought shorts to, do you know what I mean? Because all like, it's going to get sweaty in here, it's going to get a bit rowdy. And I remember I had shorts on, but I'd put my joggies down, like, just sitting somewhere. And I was just, must have been in that mode again, mate. And I've got up, I picked them up, folded them, right? And put them in my arm. And I walked up to a boy in the house. And this is on like a trance sort of thing. Like, I remember walking up to a boy in the house and being like, who I wasn't even pals with, were like some lassies and that. And I just walked bars and I was like, am I alright to just give you a gift receipt for these, aye? And he was like, what? And I immediately snapped at it and I was like holding these joggies in my horn. And I was like, never mind, mate. And I was like, oh my God. And do you know what? It's actually funny. I remember that night being the night I went home. And I remember being like, I probably need to chill out a wee bit here. Like that. You do get those nights where you're like, maybe ripped it a wee bit too much there.
You do, mate. Oh, man.
Mate, one more. I'll give you one more. Right?
Okay.
That just while I'm thinking, the first time we ever took acid, my pal, I wouldn't name him actually because this involves illegal things. My pal, well, 3 years took it. We're in my pals. We went to this gaff, which was the worst decision we ever made because we were like tripping and people were mad with whiting and all that. It totally fucked us up. We're like, we need to get out of here. We just ran back out. But my pal went, I nearly said his name again there. He went home and he was like, he texted us. Me and my pal were just sitting in his, and the boy who left texted me like, oh, I need to come back round. I've left my joggies. So I'm like, oh, right, no bother. So he came round to my pal's gaff, but we're like, oh, he'll fucking walk round because he lived 10 minutes away. He drove round in his big brother's motor, right? Like a big BMW, and we're like, what, mate, what are you doing? And he was still tripping. He's like, I'm here for the joggies. And we're like, mate, you're in your brother's motor? And he was like,
oh, no.
He was like, oh, fuck, man. And we're like, mate, what are you doing? He's like, I just need to go up the road. And I remember my pal got at him, shows how fast that can go. And he just booted it up the street. And now that way, it was like 9 in the morning and like the birds are chirping. I'm just like, what is going on now, man? What is really going on? But that's that's why I can do these things, mate.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. It brings back good memories. So that's what it does. You feel quite... It feels like a lifetime ago, stuff like that.
It does, mate. And like, this is the thing, like, this is what's maybe no fraudulent with me now, I wouldn't say, but I just can't get on it like that. And I don't have the energy. I don't care enough. I don't enjoy it as much.
Done it. You've been there, done it.
Done it. I've got them there. The memories are there, but like, no, I'll still sit in a house to 5, 6, whatever, but like, don't say like days and pure this and getting these and 4 of them and 8 of them up my arse. No way, mate. No anymore.
There's so many things I can say, but do you know what? Actually, I'm going to stop. I'm going to not tell any more stories myself because I'm like, if I'm ever on Reilly's gaff, I've got about 10 stories.
Yeah, you need to keep them, mate.
So I'll keep them because this isn't about you. It's always about the guests, mate. And those stories were class, mate. We've talked about why you started TikTok and how you got the podcast and just everything about your general life, man. This has been great. To kind of finish, I wanted to talk about what your sort of future plans are, because we talked about the American style based podcast and stuff, right? Now, one of the things that's quite interesting about that is a lot of them kind of work together. I feel like Buck Kreischer and Tom Segura and Bobby Lee are on the big group chat, coming up with different ideas and stuff like that, and they're all kind of helping each other. But if you notice, a lot of the reason why they want the podcast to do well and why it's important to them is so they can sell tickets for stand-up comedy. Aye. And it got me wondering, like, is that something that, you know, in terms of you went from TikTok to podcast, and I'm going, is he looking to kind of keep evaluating this and keep going forward? So is going on stage or doing something like that something that you would consider?
I would. I definitely, that's like the natural progression, I think, because I've been asked a few times to do stand up on my own, just like like my pal started like a comedy night in this club, and he was like, "Do you want to try it? I think you'd be good at it." And like, I was like, I've never really fancied it. I got asked to do stand up at a drive-in cinema, mate. So like me doing stand up, going through the radios in the motor, I was like, mate, I cannot do it. Like, because you're not getting any reaction. It's just like motors. You're just like, well,
especially if you're just starting as well.
The first ever time through a car radio, but. Like, we definitely want to go into sort of live podcast, mate. Like live, like get like maybe 3-4 guests, come on, like do a big night somewhere. Like that is like
sell tickets for that. No bother.
I know. I definitely want to do that. I'm just wary. I just don't feel that we're ready yet. I feel like if we put a night out, the people would go. I don't think that people wouldn't go, but I like we have a Patreon now, which means people can pay for extra content, extra episodes, and we are so like I feel so not bad about people giving us our money, but I'm so careful with like I don't want to put something out unless I feel like it's worth what we're charging, and I don't know right now if we done a live show that I think we could do it justice to the level that we wanted to do it. So definitely in the future, mate, the plan is to just keep going with the podcast, keep growing it, keep growing the Patreon. Hopefully with the support of people on Patreon, we can slowly begin to have to do our 9 to 5 jobs. And with that, it's like a snowball effect because the more time we have, the more content we can put out. So the more support we get on that, the more we can put out for people. And then, as you say, the natural progression is to get on a stage. Like we've got people like 20 Minute Tim's who done a live show in Tennant's Brewery. Jamie went to that, said it was really good. Like that is the progression for us.
And stuff
Exactly. Like Blethered, like the live shows. Like that is a goal for us. That's the progression because also like we do want to make it our jobs and we do love doing the podcast, but there's obviously it would be great for the people because there's people like all over the place that watch it, so it'd be good for them to actually come and meet us after it and that. Like we don't think about that because we're just like, oh, we're just fucking normal people, but then we forget that people are like, we're part of like people's work lives. Like people are like, I watch it on the way to work, and like the ones that I listen to like going to work and that, like if I met the people, I'd be like, oh my god, mate, like you've actually provided me with such like I feel like in debt to the people. So I get the feeling of like people meeting us and really wanting to meet us and stuff, and I am looking forward to doing live shows and that would be the dream, man.
I think your viewers would like really respect that though, the fact you're saying you want to do it but you know that it's going to be a process of you know there's no need to rush it, you're still getting the reps in and it's building it up, and there'll be a point where you know we can nail this now. Exactly,
mate. I think we'll know when the time comes, man, but I just don't want to, even though I know people, there would be people that go to it, I don't want to put something out on a stage that I'm like, it's because my biggest fear is like doing something and people are like they're just like money grabbing or whatever. Like I don't think they would, because we would do a decent show, but I want to make sure that when we do it, it's like we're fully confident that we can provide a good night. Exactly, man. Exactly.
That's what it's all about. You know, I think see when I listen to you talk is about I don't know much about stand-up comedy, right, in terms of, you know, the techniques and stuff. But what I do hear people talk about a lot is like the taglines. They kind of, so you have like your big bits, but you have the wee taglines in between that. Yeah. And you seem to have this natural ability to have wee taglines all the way through the stuff you do. Like you know, so see even like the wee TikToks, there's points where you've got your whole like bit, but there's like wee bits in it where you go, that was totally out of left field, but it's hilarious.
It just doesn't add up.
So it's like those kind of things, you seem to have a natural take for it, and I'd be really excited to see. I would definitely go to a show.
Oh, mate, I'll get you VIP, baby.
I'll be at the back. The
only thing is, mate, the venue has 2 flights of stairs, so you're gonna need.
Well,
you're gonna need
the crippled Spider-Man's going to return, mate. I'll come, mate. I will come with a Spider-Man mask on my knees, mate.
Oh, mate, that could be part of it. That could be your appearance on the stage.
They would just imagine. Like, I don't even say anything. Like you guys are talking, right? You guys are just talking and doing whatever you're doing, and then you just see me crawl across the stage with a Spider-Man mask on, and you don't even address it, and the whole audience is like, what?
But we don't even like address it at all, man.
They're just like, what was that? No, I would totally do that, mate. I would totally do that.
That would be so funny, mate.
But listen, I really appreciate you coming on.
No, I've loved it, mate. Honestly, genuinely really enjoyed it.
Like, because I know, you know, you're doing really well, and you could have went on loads of podcasts, so I appreciate you coming on here. And you know, I could talk to you all day. How long have we went for?
He's on 90 minutes.
90 minutes?
Aye.
Not bad.
Next guests are like probably stunning inside.
Well, I want to give a wee shout out to Matt as well. Matt Diamond, who's the other half of the Rebel City podcast, has came in and helped us.
You doing another podcast after this?
Oh no, I'm not. This is
Oh, they used the studio.
the
Okay,
green
I was like,
room.
I'm so sorry, mate. I've been talking a lot of absolute garbage.
This is the green room, which is my gaff. So if you ever want to come back here, give us a shout. But I've just thought I would let everybody know that I've got the York brothers are coming on as well.
Beautiful,
Just
man.
for the people that are in here to listen to you. You have reason to come back. You know?
Aye, the yurts.
We're on every Tuesday, so Tuesday at 5. So if anybody's wanting to stay in about it after hearing your hilarious party here, feel free.
Thank you.
Have you got any guests coming up that you want to kind of push out there?
We actually next week. When will this come out?
This is going to come out on Tuesday, mate.
Tuesday. So Tuesday we will be recording Mark Dallas.
Oh, what, mate? Mark Dallas?
Mark Dallas.
That's
So-
a belter.
I know, mate. I'm really looking forward to that because, like, I don't watch wrestling now, but I've always been a sort of, I've loved it when I was younger, and then I've always been a fan of, like, I don't know why, but just the way it works. Don't know why, but he's coming on, Mark Dallas. Lots of deep frieds coming up over at the Patreon. We've got Big Miz coming on. Few people coming back. Aye, man. We're doing the thing.
Good stuff, mate. And actually, it's worth noting, Dallas is actually coming on here as well.
Oh,
So it should be quite
double
fun. It's going to be, because I'm obviously really into the wrestling right now,
Yeah.
so he's the main man, so
Oh,
I'm going to be kissing his ass like it's awful, mate.
You've done so much for the scene in
Aye,
Scotland.
that-
I love you.
What, make me your world champion, bro.
I seen a video of Paul Heyman. Like, did you see that video? Like Paul Heyman, like pointing him out a crowd and be like, "Is Mark Dallas here tonight?" And all
Aye.
that. Oh, mate, I couldn't believe it.
He's honestly, what he's done for wrestling is phenomenal. mate.
Aye, it's crazy,
He
mate.
is like the Vince McMahon of,
Aye.
you know.
That's a bit of a dodgy type to say that.
I know, well true, but I mean, is anyone really surprised that Vince McMahon's a maniac?
No, not mate. That's the least surprising. Like me too, however.
Mate, when that news came out, I was like, this is a bit time.
I know. I was shocked that it wasn't 10 times worse, to be honest. Like, if there was ever a guy who was gonna have done all that stuff, defo him.
But I love the fact that he actually appeared on SmackDown that day.
Aye,
Like that same day.
I seen it. I actually stayed up. It was the weekend, wasn't it? So I was like, what is this guy gonna say here? And he was like, then now forever, welcome to SmackDown. They just left. I was like, you fucker, Vince. Those ratings, you smart old man.
He's such a smart motherfucker.
know.
Like, the only reason why he done that basically was saying, you think you're going to cancel me? Fuck
I know. I own this bitch. I know, man.
Well,
but
anyway.
hopefully we can get Vince McMahon on the podcast. That is my dream guest ever. Vince McMahon, get him on.
Do you want to know my dream guest, man? Genuinely not even joking. Grado, man. If you're listening to this, go to fucking reply to my DMs.
Mate, we tried to get Grado. He said aye at first as well.
Oh,
and
mate.
then he was like, after the pantomimes and that, and then I
I
mailed
love
him
him,
back
man.
and he passed it. So
He's-
Grado, if you're watching.
Like, if I when I think about wrestling, man, he's like my dream match. If I could have a wrestling match with Grado, I would die happy, mate.
I need to get him up,
So
have a
I
tussle.
want to let them know. But anyway, no. Listen, this has been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Thanks so much. I've really enjoyed it, mate. Genuinely, you're very good at this, honestly. Like,
Thank you.
your questions spot on, everything, man. Fantastic. I've first time being a guest, so it's nice to just sit back and just be like,
No.
what would you want to ask me? So no, I've really enjoyed it, mate. Thanks for
We'll
having me
come
on.
back on any time and best of luck with what you're doing in the future. Mate.
Thank you, my man. Perfect. Cheers.